Hi guys, and welcome back to Sevalellorar episode number 2. I know you guys have been waiting for this episode. Um, just because I had mentioned that this episode would be based on Renita's life story. But as many of you guys know, I am pregnant with baby girl number 4, and I've been going through it, you guys. I've been having like a really difficult time gaining some energy to record this video. Here I am today. I gathered some energy and we're gonna go ahead and get started. Um, for first and foremost, I do want to say that this will probably be the hardest and most difficult episode I am ever going to record. Um, I really try not to remember the days that led up to Renita's passing. Um, just because they're really hard days to remember, you guys. Most of the days are a blur to me. I don't even recall like most of the days that I was in the hospital. Um, and maybe it's part of it has to do because I don't want to remember those hard days. But I also want you guys to know that I'm sharing Renita's story not to get pity, not for anyone to feel sorry for me, but to bring awareness that this happens more than we think. I remember laying in the hospital bed after Renita passed away, thinking like, why did this happen to me? Or thinking like that God was punishing me for something that I did in my past or something that I did in this life. And I failed to understand that this happens to a lot of people, unfortunately. And this is just part of our story. And maybe I have came to a realization that maybe this is part of my story because God knew that I would not stay quiet. God knew that I would use my voice. As painful as the story is, I am not going to stay quiet. I want everyone to know Reynita's story because Reynita was, is, and always will be part of our lives. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. I want to start by saying that I was at the hospital for a whole week. So I woke up one day, dropped off my girls to school on a Monday, like a regular start of the week. And as usual, as you guys, a lot of you guys know, I was diagnosed with hyperemesis gravideum while I was pregnant with Renita. And hyperemesis is pretty much morning sickness all day long. Every day, all day, no matter what you eat, you will throw it up. And I was really going through it with her. I couldn't hold down water. Literally anything I ate, I would always throw up very constantly. Everything made me sick. I was just very, very sick, very dehydrated because I couldn't even intake water. Um, so that Monday morning, I went to drop off my girls at school, like a regular day. And as usual, I woke up feeling very nauseous. Usually, my nausea came from wanting to eat in the morning, but it never failed for me to eat and still throw up. So that morning, I decided to have a banana. And so I had my banana, and literally, like 10-15 minutes later, I threw up. And usually, when I throw up, I have like a discharge come out or like a little bit of pee come out. If you know, you know. If you've been pregnant, you know that that happens. It's very normal. Uh, TMI, I know. But that morning, it was not a discharge. Um, I quickly checked, and because I had a feeling like it felt like it wasn't just discharge. I don't know why, but I checked and it definitely wasn't discharge. My discharge came with blood, and I quickly panicked, you guys. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I quickly panicked. I had never seen blood in any of my pregnancies. I've been pregnant twice before Renita, and I had never seen blood in between my pregnancy. So I panicked. Luckily, my mom was here that day, and we quickly went to the hospital I was supposed to give birth at. So we go to the hospital. I get there. I pretty much explain what was going on. They get me in a room. They check my cervix, and I was 1 centimeter dilated at that moment. And so, since I was only 25 weeks pregnant, they decided to fly me out to Riverside Community Hospital due to Victorville having low incubators. So we automatically knew that if my baby was coming as soon as whatever time she wanted to come, we just knew she would go straight into an incubator. So I guess my doctor wanted to be prepared for that. So they flew me out from Apple Valley to um, Riverside Community Hospital. The scariest moments, you guys. At that moment, I was mentally prepared to have my baby within the next hours. I remember my discharge looking like a mucus plug. And so at that moment, I was just preparing for the worst. And so the flight from Apple Valley to Riverside Hospital was about 45 minutes, I would say. But to me, it felt so much longer than it was. So I get to the hospital, they check my cervix again, and I'm actually 3 centimeters dilated at that moment. And so the panic strikes. My doctor gets there and we have a plan. They started giving me magnesium just so I guess my body can stop contracting. So my body could stop opening my cervix. At that moment, I was not feeling any contractions, luckily, but I guess the magnesium did stop my cervix from opening. And so at that moment, my doctor just wanted me to stay pregnant as long as I could, due to the fact that my baby was 25 weeks. So we had a plan, stay pregnant as long as we could. My water had not broke yet. So at that moment, the plan was staying in the hospital until it was safe for me to come out. Um, so I got there Monday. I was there Tuesday. Tuesday, I hadn't dilated any more than what I had already dilated. And then on Wednesday, my water started leaking. And so that was pretty much a sign that she was trying to push to come out. My water started leaking on Wednesday. And then about Wednesday night, my water completely broke. And that's when I began to panic because, to my understanding, when your water breaks, the baby needs to come out. But I'm guessing due to my baby being premature, the rules and regulations for a premature baby when your water breaks is keeping them in there as long as they could. And that's even like even if you feel like the baby or you could get an infection. And that was so crazy to me because I fought with the doctor a lot. I told her this is not my first pregnancy. I've been pregnant before. I've had a baby before. And to my understanding, once your water breaks, that's it. The baby needs to come out. She didn't listen to me, you guys. And well, at that moment, I couldn't do anything but trust the doctors. And so therefore, we decided to just play this waiting game. And so at that moment, they had already told us, okay, you're not leaving the hospital. You're going to be here until however long you need to be here. until the baby's born, and we're trying to make it to 30 weeks. And so I agreed with that plan. My plan was to have my baby healthy as I could. So the plan was stay in the hospital. Omar was gonna leave to be with the girls because the girls did miss us. So Omar was gonna leave, but something told him not to leave, and so he stayed. So then Thursday, I did start to contract. I did start feeling the contractions. They started giving me medication for the contractions and just trying to keep the baby in there as long as possible. And in my heart, I just knew that they had to take the baby out. And at that moment, my fear was either I can get an infection or my baby can get an infection. So I kept expressing my emotions to the doctor, like, I don't think this is safe. I don't think this is the best plan. And the doctor practically told me that if she takes the baby out, that if I'm asking her to take the baby out, I'm practically asking her for an abortion, which was kind of BS to me, you guys. Because if my water was broken already, why was I asking for an abortion? I was asking for my baby to be safe. I was asking for me to be safe because at that point, I myself could have gotten an infection. Um, so the doctor decided still not to take out the baby. So we didn't. It was Thursday night. My contractions were better. I didn't feel no more contractions. They had got rid of my contractions, and so we decided to get a good night's sleep. We decided to just rest for the day, just rest for the night because it was already night. So much was going on. And so Omar and I just decided to have some peace for a little bit. So we turned the lights off and we tried to get some rest. Within that time, it was Thursday night. Within that time, I'm sorry, you guys, it's kind of hard to remember this without feeling in any type of way. Um, Within that time, nurses and the doctor came rushing in my room, and I was scared because I had no idea what was going on. I asked the nurse what's going on, like why is everyone rushing me in here? Because usually when a bunch of nurses and doctors rush into your room, something is not right. So one of the nurses explained to me that my baby's heart rate went down for a few seconds, and that it might have been me moving because they did have the monitor on my stomach to check her heart rate. So at that moment, they fixed it. They found her heartbeat, and they were like, okay, like maybe it was you moving, and it wasn't really her heart rate going down. So we're gonna keep checking it, and if it goes down again, we need to go into an emergency C-section. So at that moment, me and Omar were like, okay, we had a scare. Let's just get some rest. It's been a long night, a long day actually. And so we lay down again to try to get some rest. And not even like 10 minutes later, the nurses and doctors come back in rushing in. And yeah, they pretty much decided to take me into an emergency C-section because her heart rate was in fact going down. It stopped for a couple of seconds again. And so we went into an emergency C-section. And you guys, I can't begin to explain how scared I was at that moment. One, because I was not prepared for a C-section. I had no knowledge for a C-section. I did not know anything because in my birth plan per se, we all have our own birth plans that we want to pursue, but 9 times out of 10, birth plans are not the way we want them to happen. But never in my life did I ever think that I was gonna go into a C-section, which I I I have no I have nothing against C-sections, you guys. Like, see, you gotta take the baby out one way or another. But to me, it was like my first surgery ever. I had never ever in my entire life had gone through a surgery. So going in there, not knowing what to expect, it being an emergency C-section, knowing that they were gonna put my body completely to sleep was really scary. And so they put my body completely to sleep. Omar couldn't even really be there. He had to wait outside the door, so I kind of didn't have his support at that moment. I remember my body just shaking uncontrollably. I don't know if it was because I was scared, if I was cold. I don't know. It was a mixture of both. Um, but all I could remember was being laying in the operation room and shivering. And then after that, I passed out. The C-section was successful, you guys. Reynita was born May 26, 2023 at 12:26 a.m. And she was fine. Everything was fine until it wasn't. Mm, I remember waking up from my surgery. Um, the first person seen was Omar. Um, and I remember the first question I asked him was, "How is our baby? How is my baby?" And so he told me she was good. He took a picture of her and he told me she was good and she looked good. Um, and that brought me so much peace because at 26 weeks, it was probably something I didn't expect to hear. Um, but it brought me peace. They kept me in the room for a little longer to recover a little bit. Then they took me to a recovery room where Omar and I were going to get some sleep. And I remember finally being able to turn the lights off and get some rest because I was in so much pain. I was still very drugged, in so much pain. But I wanted to sleep. I wanted to get some rest. And so Omar and I decided, okay, like, the baby's good. Let's get some rest. We'll be able to see her tomorrow. And so we did. We turned off the lights. Everything went dark. The nurses were finally not coming in to check me for a while. So I was able to get some rest. But about 30 minutes after I closed my eyes to try to go into a deep sleep, I received a call from the NICU asking if I gave them approval to give Reynita a blood transfusion. And of course, I said yes because if she needed it, I wanted her to get it. So I said yes. They took the yes and they ran with it. I guess within that moment, she got the transfusion, and the transfusion didn't go as well as we thought it would. Because Reynita had an infection in her blood, and so not even 30 minutes after she got the transfusion, the NICU called one of the nurses telling her that I need to immediately go to the NICU. So my nurse goes in my room, and she scared the fuck out of me and Omar. Um, Rightfully so though, because Reynita wasn't doing good at that moment anymore. So she practically was like, "Put your gown on. We're going to the NICU. Your baby needs you." I remember those words so vividly. Bear with me, you guys, because this is the first time that I am actually like sitting here trying to remember the details, and it's harder than I thought. I remember being in so much pain, you guys. So much pain. I don't even know how I got up so fast from my bed, because I had just had surgery 4 hours prior, 4 or 5 hours prior. Um, but I got up because my baby needed me, and I got up, and then um, I remember from my room to the NICU, them rolling me in a wheelchair. It was the longest minutes of my life, because I guess the NICU was a little far from where I was, and so we're rushing, trying to get there as soon as possible, because the way the nurse sounded, you guys, it just didn't sound very good to us. So we get to the NICU, and I remember just seeing a bunch of nurses and doctors surrounding Reinita. And off the bat, I already knew I had some bad news coming. And trying to mentally prepare for that, you guys, like. So then the doctor comes, and he tells Omar and I that Reinita had a infection in her blood. Therefore, she needed the blood transfusion, and so they did do the blood transfusion, and unfortunately, that was not successful. He said that he was giving her all the medication that he could give her, and trying to do everything possible to help her. But since she was premature, it was not helping. Her lungs were still not, her lungs still needed a lot of growing. And since her lungs were not big enough, um, her lungs were not taking the medication very well. Um, I remember asking the doctor to do anything to save my baby girl. I remember getting on my knees, fresh out of surgery, getting on my knees. Omar and I got on our knees, begging God to save our baby girl, to make a miracle for us. Um, and we cried because part part of us knew that she was not gonna make it. Part of us knew that the machine that she was connected to was the reason why she was still breathing. So then one of the nurses comes up to me, and she asked me if I want a priest to come say goodbye to her. And I remember saying, yeah. Um, I remember one of the nurses telling me to take pictures with her, and I remember telling the nurse that I wanted to take pictures with her when she was good because she was gonna be good. And then that nurse looked me right in my eye, dead in my eyes, and she, with a broken heart, she made it really clear to me that there was not gonna be a another chance for me to take pictures with her. She made it very clear to me that it was either now or never. And even though I had no strength to take pictures, you guys, um, the nurse was kind enough to take videos and pictures of me and Omar with her and of her by herself. And I can't thank her enough for that because I feel like at that moment, I didn't want to accept that she was not gonna be with me long. I feel like I was in denial. I couldn't believe that just a little while ago she was fine. Like I said earlier, everything was good until it wasn't. So we got to hold her. The doctor pretty much like told us that there was nothing else he can do to save her. He pretty much showed us her numbers, her vitals, and how they wouldn't go up at all. If anything, they kept going down. And he pretty much told us that the only reason that those numbers didn't completely drop was because of the machine that she was connected to. So he pretty much asked us how long we needed to say our goodbyes to her. And so um, I remember, you guys, at that moment wishing that I could take that fucking machine home, wishing that I could keep her connected to the machine. But that was just me thinking very selfishly because I also knew that that was not a way to live. And so Omar and I held our baby girl in our arms and, we cried. And we said our goodbyes to her. So we sent her in peace. Um, she was baptized before she passed. And yeah, you guys, that's pretty much her story. That was one of the hardest days of our lives. And I remember my mother-in-law coming to say goodbye to her. She was already disconnected from the machine, and she was the only one that got to hold her besides Omar and I. And I know it was very tough for her. I think whoever got to hold her in their arms when she was no longer living, I think that would have been a very traumatic thing to go through. I think whoever has to hold their dead baby in their hands has to have gone through the most traumatic phase of their lives, because no one should ever have to hold their baby dead body in their hands. I think that those are the strongest people alive in this earth, because it's not something you ever forget. I don't think I'll ever forget those moments. I remember them asking me if I wanted a bassinet to take her up to my room, because I had no idea that they allow you to have your baby, your dead baby, for 24 hours in your room. I guess so your family could come say their goodbyes, so you could spend time with your baby. Omar and I refused. We didn't want to put that trauma on anybody. It was already traumatic as it was for me and him. As much as I wanted to take my baby to the room with me, I knew in my heart that I couldn't, because the longer I held her in my arms, the more difficult it would be for me to let go. So we just decided to say our goodbyes to her at the NICU, and so we did. And I sent her up with her grandpa in heaven, and I know he's doing an amazing job taking care of her, as he would if he was down here on earth with her as well. So yeah, you guys, that is Reynita's story. I want to say that I was very angry with the doctor that didn't listen to me when I told her to take out the baby when my water broke. I don't know, you guys. I don't know how everything else would have played out if she would have, but I feel like I blamed her. I blamed her for a long time. Sometimes I still blame her, because I feel like maybe, yes, Renita was 26 weeks, and not every premature baby makes it, but I feel like she had a very high chance of making it. And I don't know, and I'll never know that if she would have took her out sooner, she would have made it. And that ran through my head for a couple of months, a few months. Though it's the what ifs, is the what if I would have done this, or what if I would have done that, that kills you the most after your baby passes. Um, After that, you know, after that, the hardest thing was everyone calling you to see how you and the baby are doing, because prior to that, everyone had called me, all my family, my siblings. Um, they had called me, like, asking, like, how are you doing? Like, it's good, we're good. Like, the baby's good. She's in the NICU, we're good. Like, we're just trying to get some rest now. And so everyone thought everything was good, because everything was good. And so after that, the hardest part to share with everyone else was that she just passed away. That whatever I told them prior to that is not true. She was okay until she wasn't, and then she passed away. Renita lived 12 hours. She will always be our little warrior, because I know that she fought very hard to stay in this earth. But this was part of our story, and I walked out of the hospital with this little bear that is stuffed with exactly how much she weighed. And she did weigh 1 pound and 7 ounces. And this bear was the only thing that I walked out with, you guys. And if you're a lost mom, you know that the hardest part of walking out of that hospital is walking out with a bear instead of your baby. Um, and I just want to share my story because I want everyone to know that life is really hard, and I wish sometimes the doctors would listen to their patients instead of doing what is in the laws and regulations book. And sometimes I wish that if she would have listened to me, I don't know, you guys, I don't know. Maybe I would have a different outcome, but I will never know. And um yeah. So I just want to say thank you for listening to me. Um I hope that whoever is going through something similar to this knows that they are not alone. Um, I will never understand. Never. I don't think like that one video on TikTok that says even if God himself came down and told me the reasons why, like I will never understand. Never. And I feel like that's one of the hardest parts of grief in general. Um us not understanding exactly why things happen the way they do, or like why things play out the way they do. And it's something that we will never understand, no matter how hard we try to sit there and put the pieces together and try to understand everything that happened. We probably will never understand. And all that's left is sharing your story and sharing your trauma and reminding everyone else that they are not alone. So, this video, I'm making it in honor of Reynita Michaela Gonzalez. 12 short hours, but made the biggest impact in my life within those short 12 hours. And I want to remind you guys que se vale llorar. Everything you feel is part of life, and everything that you go through is part of life, and se vale llorar. Okay, you guys, I'm back and I got myself together because that was really tough. It was actually tougher than I even thought it would be. But it was very good to vent to you guys, to share my story, to share Renita's story. I do want to do a Q&A. If you guys have any questions about anything, or just any question in general about my hospital stay and the way that they arranged things at the hospital during the passing of your baby. I want to thank everybody that stuck around to the end of this video, for listening to Reynita's story, because our baby's stories matter at the end of the day. Like I said before, Reynita lived 12 hours long, and she made the biggest impact in my life. And I will never stop sharing her story, and I will never stop saying her name. And she is a constant reminder to me that it's okay to cry, que se vale llorar. And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I may look good and I have my good days, but I also have my bad days. And I feel like it's gonna be like that for the rest of my life. And it's just a constant reminder that I had someone very, very special in my life for 6 months, and that's not something easily forgotten. And yes, I want to remind you guys that you are not alone, and thank you for watching. Hope you guys stick around for episode number 3.
He estado recordando los momentos que te di, cuántos tú me diste y por qué ahora estoy aquí, sentada en el suelo pensando que te quiero, que te quise tanto y que tu amor me es necesario.